Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is John.
And I'm Kevin.
And this is 6 Degrees of Schwarzenegger, the podcast where we take a long, hard look at some of our favorite action movies from the era of Arnold.
Schwarzenegger is the icon of the genre, and we're taking a deep dive into some of these 80s and 90s cult action movies and breaking them all the way down.
We're going to get into the nitty-gritty and examine the good, the bad, the ugly, and the laughable in these movies.
But we're always coming from a place of love. You don't watch these movies as much as we have unless you have a genuine affection for them.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast.
Hi.
Hey, this is John and Kevin coming to you from chilly, blustery Atlanta, Georgia.
Where snow might be in the offing.
We cross our fingers. It's been a big time here in Georgia. We're relishing not one but two national championships. If you're not a Georgia sports fan, we need you to get down with this.
Yes.
Por favor.
Alabama's had plenty of football wins. So
Did you love Saban in the opening of that being like, we're just here to get some respect because no one respects Alabama?
I didn't even hear him say that, yeah.
Cool,
yeah.
Thanks, Nick Saban.
That was sweet, though. But yes, Georgia's won. The Braves are still World Series champions if you're keeping track. And
That's right.
There may not be a baseball season this year, so their reign may last a while.
We need to get them to sort that thing out so they can sort the Freddie Freeman situation out.
Pay that man his money.
Pay his money. But that's neither here nor there. We're not here to talk about Atlanta or Georgia sports, as much fun as that would be. There are a lot of other podcasts that do that. What there aren't a lot of podcasts that do is talk about 1980s and 90s cult action movies like Red Sonja.
Yes. We're talking about an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, you guys.
That's right. Well, an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie that's not supposed to be an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
Yeah, I think he clocks in on he's in less than 50% of the movie, I think.
But still is so prominent.
Yeah, he got his billing ahead of Brigitte Nielsen.
Like Brando and Superman.
Yes.
For not being an Arnold movie, he's in it an awful lot.
He was we'll get to it eventually, but he was sort of taken advantage of by his old pal Dino De Laurentiis.
Right. And is sort of this movie's like Deus Ex Machina. It's like whenever someone needs saving, Arnold shows up.
In honor of the man himself, we're sipping on a little of the finer things. Little Blanton's bourbon.
That's right.
Killing a bottle tonight.
That's right. We're not going to pour any out because it's too expensive, but we are going to take a sip. Here's to all of our friends listening along, all of our friends in the last of the Action Heroes podcast network. We clink our glasses. Hopefully you heard that.
I'm sure they did.
And with that, I guess we'll talk about this thing. Kevin, what was your first exposure to this?
About a week ago, I watched it for the first time somehow. This is a blind taste test for yours truly. Although I do recall it was on TBS all the time.
Absolutely.
It was on. There was a commercial for it on every single commercial break during Beastmaster or Conan the Barbarian. It's weird to me how there was a brief moment in history where the barbarian genre was a viable genre by itself.
Yeah, like a subgenre of the sword and sorcery genre,
yes.
The larger genre. We're going to say genre some more before the day is over. And heavy rotation on TBS. I remember seeing it a lot as a kid. As I rewatched it, and it's been some decades probably since I've seen it, so much comes flooding back to you. It cooks. This thing clocks in at an hour and a half.
Sub 90 minutes. Yeah.
And
they kept it moving.
They sure as fuck did. They must have cut out a lot of stuff. But yeah, this was one, and maybe it was just because it was a female action star, a female lead in Brigitte Nielsen, and that was always compelling to a 10-year-old me. Oh, what's up, girl? Redhead, definitely good looking. And then Arnold. and then a very young Ernie Reyes Jr. We'll get into the whole cast list here in a moment.
Yeah,
but like
pretty rad.
there was a lot to love in this for, you know, like I guess I probably saw it when I was like 7 or 8, really, after it had come out and been on TBS.
And I know if I had seen it when I was kid, me would have loved this.
Oh yeah.
Like it had everything a 10-year-old would want to see in a movie.
Including like a kid that's good at martial arts.
I know,
and
that kid was badass.
Yeah, Ernie Reyes Jr. was crushing it. So a little backstory on this. It's based on a Marvel Comics character created in 1973. We think that there was also a book before, but she wasn't a barbarian, right?
Right. I read where there was a character named Red Sonja in a Robert E. Howard book. But it was like some sort of an adventure story set during the Ottoman Empire in the 1500s. And she was like, a badass warrior woman, but she was not a barbarian. The barbarian like angle came when Marvel turned it into a comic, because there was a Conan comic that was hot, I think.
Right.
I mean, barbarian shit was hot in the early to mid 80s.
People love that. Yeah, like He-Man and everything else. So yeah, 1973, created by writer Roy Thomas, who was Stan Lee's first successor as the Marvel editor-in-chief.
Oh, cool.
He co-created characters like Wolverine, Vision, Carol Danvers, or Captain Marvel, if you rather, Iron Fist, Ghost Rider, and on and on and on. I mean, dude was busy, prolific.
Okay.
And then the artist was Barry Windsor Smith, who's known for helping create Conan.
Yeah.
And then he also worked on the very popular Weapon X storyline in the Wolverine comic book series in the 90s.
And this was not the original Conan art, right? Like this was the comics.
Right, exactly.
I know that original Conan art is also apparently awesome.
Right.
Like very grim and dark, like the old Lord of the Rings art.
Exactly.
And stuff that came before any sort of whatever. Just, I guess, artists were inspired by the text.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sword and sorcery, baby. It was directed by Richard Fleischer.
Yeah.
Who was a legend.
He directed a lot of like proto blockbusters. Like before there were actual blockbusters. So I saw he'd done the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, the one you think of with Kirk Douglas.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I grew up watching that a lot. He did Tora, Tora, Tora.
Classic.
I have had Fantastic Voyage.
Yeah. Did you ever see Barabbas with Anthony Quinn?
Yes, my dad loved that, and I watched it a lot.
Oh man, yeah. It was like, it's one of my favorite biblical epics. That's a genre too.
He did Dr. Dolittle. He did a lot of also cult movies like this one. He did Soylent Green,
Conan the Destroyer,
and Mandingo.
Yes,
and Mr. Majestic. It's just like.
Dude,
he had
busy.
a varied career. The coolest bit of trivia to me, did you read about his dad,
No.
Max Fleischer?
No.
His dad was the animator who created Betty Boop.
Oh, that's awesome.
He also developed the Popeye cartoon from a comic strip. He also invented like the little bouncing ball sing-along, like where the little ball moves along.
That's crazy.
It was like He invented rotoscoping, kind of.
Oh my God.
Also, he briefly had the animation rights to Superman, and he's like, gets credit for Superman's first like appearance on like film. It was a cartoon.
Right.
And he is credited as inventing Superman having the power to actually fly. Before that, it was just like
cool.
In a comic book, you don't see him moving, and it was just like he can hop to the top of a building,
right?
Leap leap tall buildings or whatever.
Right.
But he gave so Fleischer's dad gave Superman the ability to fly.
The power of flight. That do anything for you?
So that's just
that's
rowdy to
what
me.
A crazy family legacy. That's like Mank, like
yes.
that, like that whole deal. Like when your family's in it, they're in it. The producer it was like produced by Dino's company, the Dino De Laurentiis Corporation. So Dino is definitely involved.
Legendary producer mogul, dude. Produced like hundreds of films.
Right. And then written by, as we said, Robert E. Howard, who's credited with the character in the book. And then the screenplay was Clive Exton and George MacDonald Fraser,
who neither one had done much.
Right.
I saw Fraser wrote the screenplay, like the screen story for Octopussy. That was like the only thing of either of them that I saw that I recognized.
Edited by Frank Urieste, who was nominated for Oscars for RoboCop, Die Hard, and Basic Instinct. So no slouch.
Badass.
Yeah, like he was killing it. And then music by the legendary Ennio Morricone.
Yeah, that's about as legendary as a composer of film scores can be, like him and John Williams.
Yeah. And then I want to
I want to talk about, Morricone, he did the spaghetti westerns, all the old Sergio Leone stuff,
right.
Days of Heaven, The Mission,
Right.
Won an Oscar finally for Hateful Eight.
Which was awesome.
Yeah. But what's your favorite of his scores?
Everything that he does is he's sort of like what's his name that now writes for all the Desplat that writes for Wes Anderson now. It's such a recognizable style.
Yeah.
The Mission is one of those just like heartbreakingly beautiful scores.
Okay.
It's just anytime you hear like the choral parts in that or the big oboe solo in it, it's just like I get emotional just thinking about it. So I think that's probably my favorite just because it's so, I don't know, tender and powerful in all the religious context as well.
So I think you got to show love to like Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Definitely.
That's like, that is probably as iconic like a few bars of music as there is in film history, like that or Jaws. You know, like the one, whatever. I can't even do that. Like,
yeah, totally. Oh yeah,
my
totally.
favorite of his scores is The Untouchables, though. I love The Untouchables. That
is awesome with the fucking electronic harmonica.
Yeah, so good.
It's badass.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Dude, I geek out for that one. I think that's my favorite of his scores.
We should start an a cappella group that just covers Morricone film scores.
But this score was fucking awesome.
Yeah, it is exactly what you needed it to be. It's super epic. When it first started, I was taken aback because more than most Morricone scores that you hear, it sounds more like a symphony. Like it's epic Hollywood sounding. It sounds like a romantic classical period tone poem or something like Strauss or Wagner. I mean, it's awesome. Very, very cool.
So talk about the cast a little bit.
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger got lead billing, as he should.
Absolutely.
Always.
Yeah, he's playing the High Lord Kalidor.
Yeah, which is interesting. It seems as though they somehow didn't have the rights to the Conan name for this movie.
Do you think he was supposed to be playing Conan?
Well, fans have sort of like retconned it now and decided like Kalidor is like Mithrandir.
Okay. It's just like a regional name?
Like a traveling name.
That's badass.
Or who else? Like Strider.
Oh.
You know, like it's like a name that he's known as in this area, in this realm or whatever.
That's very, very interesting.
That's what fans have decided. Like at the end of the day, I think they just didn't have the legal right to call him Conan, which is strange being that De Laurentiis produced all the Conan movies. It's just a little weird why they wouldn't have the rights.
He could have made a phone call and been like, we're naming him Conan with a K.
And it could be that that dude, you know, Robert E. Howard's estate or whatever, wanted more money than Dino was willing to pay. I don't know.
Which is shocking because the movie wasn't cheap to make. The budget was huge.
And we got Brigitte Nielsen. I think this was her film debut.
It was her first role.
Yeah. So the story goes, it seems like that she was just found like in a fashion magazine or something because she had the look. Basically, they needed just a tall, statuesque
Dane
woman to play this part. Yeah. But then she went on like this very same year she had Rocky IV out.
Yeah, she was busy.
Then she had Cobra, Beverly Hills Cop 2. Like she had a hot little run of a couple of years.
Yeah, definitely. And then did a lot of cocaine with Stallone.
Yeah, that makes me, the whole thing, like her whole like story, especially watching this makes me, there's like a little bit of sadness to it because she seems so young and
eager,
pure in this movie, like not been, you know, soiled by the business yet or whatever.
Yeah, it didn't let the studio execs sink their creepy hooks in her and ruin her. Yeah. It's a tale as old as the 1930s. Who else is in this?
Sandal Bergman.
Right.
Same actress who played Valeria in Conan the Barbarian.
Easy to get confused, but different wig. So
different wig. She won a Golden Globe for Conan.
That makes sense.
Like for Best New Star or some shit like that.
Right. She throws down in this. It's a very compelling character.
Gedren. It is. It's interesting. Yeah, I find her sexy as hell in this. A lot more than Valeria was.
She was the principal dancer in Bob Fosse's semi-autobiographical film All That Jazz, starring Roy Scheider. She was also in Xanadu, not as good. And then so she'd done some stuff. She'd been on screen, and then this was like, I don't know, sort of a meaty part. Gedren.
Yeah, it was something. I think they auditioned her to be Red Sonja, and she said she'd rather play the Queen because it was something different.
I also think that she would have. I don't know. She probably
that would have been more confusing if it was both of
Yeah, exactly.
Her with her
Valeria.
face uncovered.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And Schwarzenegger running around together, and you're like, how is this not Conan?
Yeah, exactly.
It stars your boy.
I do love Ernie Reyes Jr. as Prince Tarn.
Yeah, he's a badass.
We should definitely look into doing The Last Dragon. We should give it the treatment because it is ripe for it.
So this movie came out the same year as The Last Dragon. I think maybe Last Dragon dropped first.
Mm-hmm.
Those were like his first two things. I don't know where he came. He's like one of these things that must have been invented in like a laboratory, like Macaulay Culkin or something.
Just like
where did he come? Just he pops out as like a fully formed action hero at age 10.
Just one of the more compelling performances in the movie.
Yeah, he was
an expert at martial arts.
He was going for it. His sword skills were the best in the film.
And he's like, what, 9?
I think
8
he was.
when this was made?
I feel like he might have been 12 when they made it, but he looks young.
He looks much younger.
He never really sprouted, but he was also Kino.
Yeah, that's right. He went later on. He'd do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2: The Secret of That Ooze.
And then I learned today that he was like the leader of that little group of whatever the fuck marauders in the Rundown, like a group of little dudes that were fighting the Rock. Do you remember that scene?
No.
They were like, oh, we'll watch that in between episodes here. It's fucking crazy though, but I didn't recognize it because he's just an old man. He is shredded and ripped up, but he's like walking around taunting the Rock. He's like, hey, Kansas City. And it's like, what the fuck does that even mean?
I don't know.
He's like,
I can't wait to see that.
Hey, hip hop. It's fucking weird.
We're going to check that out for a show.
Starred also Paul Smith as Falcon.
Yeah, Tarn's dopey valet. I recognized him as he was Beast Raban in the David Lynch Dune.
Oh, shit.
And he was also Bluto in the Robin Williams Popeye.
Yeah, which I don't really have vivid memories of either of those two. But I thought he was like another bright spot in this movie.
Oh, he was awesome.
Yeah, he was good. And then Ronald Lacey plays the evil Queen Gedren's like crony.
Right.
Who you would know as the Nazi henchman Tote from Raiders of the Lost Ark. And he's awesome.
Yeah, the sleazy Nazi with the sinister coat hanger.
Yeah. The one who burned his hand and got the what do they call that thing? The figurehead or the
medallion.
The medallion burned into his head or his hand. Yeah, awesome stuff.
So that rounds it out.
Movie time.
Yay! Well, intrepid listeners, we open with the iconic MG and Lion, so you know it's quality. Then, over the sound of wind blowing over a mythical prairie somewheres, we see that Dino De Laurentiis presents a Richard Fleischer film.
Always front and center, Dino.
Oh, yeah, he's like, you put my name first, motherfucker. So, over a rugged mountainous landscape, and I want to go ahead and say, like, the locations for all this, the filming is just beautiful.
Awesome. I think it's all Italy. But yeah, this shit looked like Rohan, kind of.
It totally. I was like, it could have been New Zealand. No one would have known. So, yeah, a scroller tells us that her name was Red Sonja. She lived in a savage world in an age of violence, a fierce warrior with flaming red hair. In the Hyborian kingdom, her quest for justice and vengeance became a legend. This is how the legend began.
That concept of the Hyborian age.
Yeah.
I looked up. It's sort of this fictitious period in history between the sinking of Atlantis and like the beginning of sort of recorded history.
Yeah.
Like they say, people who are bigger nerds than me have decided it's about like 10,000 BC.
Okay. So this is arguing that it's happened in a real
I think they acknowledge
Earth.
it's fictitious, but this is where it would have fallen in the history of Earth.
I wonder if Hyrule, like the Legend of Zelda stuff, falls in that same like Hyborian age sort of deal.
That seems a little bit more modern maybe, but I don't know. They had, obviously it was like they had the ability to make metal weapons and things like that. It must have been the early days of having metal weapons.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Steel had been found. So we fade in on a cottage burning down to nothing. A woman lies motionless in the darkness near the burning home.
Right.
A disembodied voice calls out her name, and a glowing, ghost-like, womanish figure appears.
Who the fuck is this?
I
call her the exposition
Sonya.
fairy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like some Glinda the Good Witch type shit.
Well, Glinda the Good Witch and also Obi-Wan Kenobi. I was I'm definitely getting like that kind of spirit vibe. So the woman stirs and the lights brighten to reveal Red Sonja. That's Brigitte Nielsen.
I am almost certain, because I have an eye for this, that when Sonya's first like getting up, there's just like a nip slip right off the bat. Like
I thought
you
the
see
same
her
thing.
nipple.
I thought the
and
same
it's like,
thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
It can't go unmentioned.
Yeah, I thought the same thing, and I was like, was that a maybe?
I'm pretty
Maybe it's
sure
just the
that's
light.
half,
Maybe
like that's
maybe
a
it was
half nipple.
Maybe it was a pasty. I don't know. Who knows? The voice tells her that she's suffering, but vengeance will be hers. The voice says she'll have vengeance against Queen Gedren, who wanted you for herself. And then we go
The
into
voice
like
is like telling her all types of shit that she already knows.
yeah, you know this, but the people
It's like
watching
not
at
the
home
least
sure
of which,
don't.
because it seems like it just
It
happened.
happened a moment ago. Yeah. So in a flashback, we see a veiled Queen Gedren, that's Sandal Bergman, caress Sonya's face. Sonya's momentarily, she like gets loose from the guard who's holding her, grabs a scepter, and then hits the queen square in the face and like cuts the shit out of it.
Yeah,
like,
dude, it was pretty gross.
digs in deep.
We take it right off the bat, right? That there's like a sort of a sexual
Big
obsession
time. Yeah.
with Gedren and Sonya. Okay.
That like I don't know how Gedren has been like scouring the kingdom for her next
The hottest
kinky
chick in the-
sex
in the-
toys
in the realm.
Yeah. So the disembodied voice tells Sonya that her rejection led to Queen Gedren having her minions kill Sonya's family, sexually assault Sonya, and then burn the family farm down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we
Again,
see all this in a
weird. The voice
flashback.
is saying, "Remember when you were raped and your family was killed? It happened an hour ago."
Just don't forget. Don't block this trauma out.
Also,
Just
we
remind
see it
you
all
her.
through flashbacks. What
Right.
doesn't really make sense is the filmmakers could have just shown it.
Right. And then the voice could have said, Sonya, I'm here to help you get vengeance.
Yeah, whatever. I'm the revenge
Yeah.
fairy.
So the thing that I read was that a bunch of footage had been cut from the beginning, and I bet this exposition fairy was added to help fill in those gaps.
That's probably why they shot Sonya in like a weird silhouette. Maybe it was like a
Right.
shitty looking wig or something by
Right.
that time.
So, yeah, the voice tells Sonya you're going to need your strength in your quest for vengeance. For your sword arm, you must have no equal. I give you that strength. The glowing figure produces a sword and christens Sonya with it, and then just fades away.
She's like the patron saint of revenge
Yeah, who the
or
hell is?
something.
Yeah, exactly. Who is this apparition? They never say.
Sonya struck that like Christ pose.
Yeah, it's this weird pullback of her striking a Jesus, and then we get the opening titles.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the opening titles start, and Morricone's bang-in score starts to play.
Oh yeah, dude.
We see a man riding an armored horse across a grassland, mountains in the background. It looks fucking unreal. As I said, the score is a little more classical than I'm used to hearing from Morricone, but I totally dig it.
It
Eating
sounded
up.
like it sounded a little bit like the original Conan the Barbarian
Yeah, there were-
score.
there
Just
were-
very epic.
There were a couple of moments where I was like, was this theme? I was
Yeah,
like, is
the
that
Basil Polidorus?
Yeah,
I think
was like,
those
is that-
scores. Yeah.
Is that it? But it's not. So the guy on the horse is Kalidor. That's Arnold Schwarzenegger. And you couldn't fault someone for being almost immediately confused by seeing Arnold on screen and his name first in the credits and thinking this is an Arnold movie.
Yes.
But as we end near the credits, Kalidor comes to a rope bridge over a gorge that has collapsed. So he turns around and goes back the way he came.
There was like a killer shot with the anamorphic lens when he
Yeah.
was approaching, because anamorphic lens, if you like try to pan, you get that sort of walleye, like fisheye vision.
Yeah.
And whoever this photographer was, the cinematographer, was like hella skilled. You mentioned him, right?
That cinematographer his name is Giuseppe Rotunno, an Italian who was the first ever, let me see if I can find it, the first ever non-American cinematographer accepted as a member of the American Society of Cinematographers. He worked with Fellini. He worked with Terry Gilliam. I mean, he knew what was up.
Badass.
He knew what he was doing.
He like killed this shot where he kept I don't want to say Conan. He kept Kalidor. He
You
kept
call it
Kalidor
Conan.
so centered up that he never like started to distort, even as the background, like the,
Right.
the edges of the frame were. Also, I'm wondering how comfortable would you be riding a horse across a rope bridge, even if it had not been collapsed?
Not at
Hell
all.
no.
I would probably be leading the horse just in case it fell. But even then, like,
Even then, yeah, it was like that's a bad proposition.
yeah, we're talking about like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom
Yeah, it's like
style
rope
bridge.
and wood planks. Hell
Not
no.
not sturdy enough for a horse, probably. The thing's gonna wobble like shit.
Yeah, dude, imagine a horse. The horse is top heavy. It's just going to go right over.
Yeah, not cool. So We then cut to some sort of canonical temple, and a ceremony is underway.
I think you pronounced that wrong.
Canonical?
I think it's just
conical. Canonical is when something is canon.
The
Yeah, it
blends is working.
A conical temple. Canonical is when something becomes canon.
This movie is chock full of like awesome matte paintings or models or whatever these were. This looked awesome.
Yeah, it looked beautiful. So they're inside the temple. Dozens of sword wielding women surround a glowing green spiky ball thingy.
Kind of like this, about the size of a basketball.
Yeah, exactly. Good
The
comparison.
glowing effects are pretty cool.
Yeah, they're awesome. A group of priestesses then, clad in some very Nazi pageant gold and white outfits.
Oh, shit.
Enter. Like, there was a lot of shit that looked like if you went back and looked at some Nuremberg rallies, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like, this movie did not skimp on costumes.
No.
There was like such a variety of costumes.
The costume and set design for this movie cost a fortune, look like they cost a fortune, but man, does the movie feel upscale because of it.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, it reminded me of parts of Masters of the Universe where I was like, this movie looks amazing.
This is when they were spending money.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is when they were trying to cut corners. But this place was like wall-to-wall babes, like a Motley Crue video or something. Like the priestesses and everything were just smoking hot, you know? It was like ridiculous.
Totally. So the high priestess asks the lead warrior, like temple guard woman Varna, played by Janet Agren, where is the Lord of Hyrcania?
Yeah. Who I think I instantly was like, oh, that must be Arnold.
Right. Yeah.
Who we don't know who it is yet, but yeah.
So the redheaded Varna answers. That's important. The redheaded Varna answers that the Lord, his lordship has not arrived yet. The high priestess says that he should be there for the destruction of the talisman, but we ain't got time to wait around. So she decides to go on without whoever the Lord of Hyrcania is. The priestesses all take their positions around the talisman. The high priestess begins the ceremony by invoking the god of the high gods.
What do you think they're rocking with, like the Greek or Roman style? Like there's tons of gods.
Druids is what more of like druid or Germanic Norse gods is
like
sort of like
Norse
what
type shit. Okay, that makes sense to me.
So she says in a bit of handy exposition that this is the talisman that you, God, used to create the world and all things, but it has become too powerful for us, and we got to destroy it before it destroys the world.
That's one of those things that like makes me wonder. Then where did the talisman come from? Like,
God
create the talisman, and then the talisman is what he used to create everything else?
But why? I don't know either.
But why?
So as this is happening, we get a cut to the temple's exterior, and we see a group of horsemen approaching. A man begins scaling the walls of the temple. That's Ronald Lacey.
Yeah.
The priestess, the high priestess, asks God's forgiveness and gives us some more exposition, telling us that the talisman draws its power from the light and must be shut off in eternal darkness. Outside, then, we see Queen Gedren.
That shit is going to be important to remember.
Yeah, just
clearly.
remember this, you guys.
It gets mentioned. Yeah. There's no shortage of times they mention it. But yes, it draws power from the light, and you can, I guess, sap its power by sealing it away in darkness.
Right. So outside, Queen Gedren's rolled up. She gives a signal to her henchman, Icol, who produces what looks like a rowdy-ass, like, multi-pronged shuriken throwing star thing.
Yes.
Back inside, High Priestess pulls something that looks like a scepter out of the altar. This releases some kind of counterweight that causes the altar to begin to close around the talisman.
Excruciatingly slowly.
Yeah, it's like, why doesn't that thing just go? Ka-choom?
You could have started this 5 minutes ago.
I know. Someone could have pulled the pin while you were talking. Come on.
Yeah.
So as it closes, she asks God, forgive us one last time. Just then, we guess that it's like an open air situation, because Icol throws the weapon and hits the high priestess dead in her fucking non-functional golden armor.
And she like keels over dead instantly.
Yeah, she cries out. Is it very
so this thing was like, I don't know if it was magical or if it was poisoned or something.
It has to be magical, or that armor is just for shit.
Yeah.
It just looks great. So Gedren's goons burst through the doors and begin battling the temple guard women. They seem equal to the task because they're wailing away on the bad guys.
I liked that. Like the women were like superior fighters. It reminded me of like the early scenes in Wonder Woman when they're
the Amazons.
And the Amazon women are just whipping all sorts of ass.
This is one of the moments where I was like, as a now sort of sort of adult. I am an adult, but like pro women, like strong women characters. Yeah, I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, some women kicking ass, and
they were just outnumbered. It was the problem.
Right,
there was too many.
Right. So they force the intruders out and seal it, but then we see more bad guys scaling the side of the temple, and then they start like dropping in the temple with ropes.
Yeah.
While this is all happening, we see Icole run over to the high priestess body, which is absolutely soaked in blood.
Oh shit!
Like, well, she maybe she wasn't dead because she's like bled out all over the place. She's like,
maybe this thing is like got like fucking Ebola on it or something. You just start bleeding from every
or from all your
sweating
orifices.
blood.
She is drenched in blood. He grabs the scepter pin thing, slides it back into place, and stops the talisman from being sealed away in the pit. Meanwhile, the
lead warrior Varna was like whipping ass.
Yeah, I loved all the cuts to Varna. She is kicking it. The bad guys begin to overwhelm the temple guard. With the battle inside all but over, however, Queen Gedren finally rides in, hops off her horse, and approaches the talisman.
Looking like Cher.
Yeah, man, she looks. I'm telling you, like she walked in, I was like, just the crown, the mask, her outfit. I was like, God, the costume design is awesome.
Yeah.
She's wearing a golden mask that covers part of her face that was wounded by Red Sonja in the open. The costume design, yeah, we say fucks pretty hard. Looking at the talisman, she says, "So this can make worlds or shatter them by storm and earthquake." Mm-hmm. She orders her minions to remove the talisman from its resting place. During all this, we see Varna has survived and is watching from hiding. So 4 of these goons with helmets. They look like the guys that pull the levers that activate the Death Star.
Yes,
so they got the little pin slit to look through.
And then they had skulls,
but they had
on top.
Giant horns and skulls. So they come up and they like lift it up, and the talisman's already in some sort of a carrier.
Yeah, it's kind of like how they carry the Ark of the Covenant around.
Yeah, exactly. It's in a litter of some kind. So Gedren calls one of her goons over and commands him. She's like, "Hey, touch this," and he's like, "I don't know, Queen Gedren," but he finally,
I'll touch anything you want.
Touch it. Yeah, so he touches it and vanishes into thin air.
That was pretty corny effects.
Yeah.
Like he just disappeared. Like he turned green for a hot second and then was gone.
Yeah, so Gedren's like,
I wanted
shocked.
some face melting type shit.
I did too.
I
was hoping for some like Raiders of the Lost Ark, Fire of God stuff.
Yeah.
But he just vanishes. Gedren's like shocked and giddy. She then orders her smoking hot handmaiden to touch it.
This woman. It was Laura Lamberti.
There's tons of Italians in this movie.
This woman, somehow, despite her name, IMDb says that she's French. I don't know. But she was so attractive, it was like distracting.
Yeah, she steals every scene she's in, even when she's
in
not
the background,
talking.
and you're like, what's going on in the background there? It was like, yeah, it was.
What are you doing again?
She's Queen Gedren's new arm candy, we take it.
Right. So the girl understandably feels kind of raw about touching it, but Gedren won't take no for an answer. So the girl touches the talisman and nothing happens. Gedren cackles and says the legends are true that only women may touch the talisman.
Dude, I feel like this is like the horniest movie we've talked about on this podcast. There's like everything feels like it's sexually loaded. Only
like
women can touch it.
She's like stroking the talisman.
I'm thinking like this is like
balls.
This thing is definitely like I feel like a clit metaphor.
Oh yeah,
or something. It's just like only women can find it. Only women.
Yeah, it's just sort of
bizarre. But
the round mound. So she motions, and Icole commands the talisman be covered and carried out. Icole then asks what to do with the captured temple guards and priestesses. Gedren sort of motions over to the open pit.
Fucking vicious.
Yeah, I know. As the screaming women are dropped into the pit, Varna escapes through a secret passageway in the wall. But some goons immediately see the door open and chase after her. Mm-hmm. We hear, this is gruesome, like we hear the women in the pit like crying out in pain.
Did it make you laugh? Did it make you think of Austin Powers? And
a little
Mustafa,
bit, yeah.
And he's like, I'm alive.
Yeah,
I'm badly hurt, but I'm alive. He's like, I think my leg is broken.
I think, yeah.
Let me try to stand on it. Snap. Yes, it's definitely broken.
Yeah, but they did a really good job of like creating a mental image of all these poor women with snap,
like a pile.
Like they're good. Yeah, they're just gonna die. That's it for them. So all these women.
But how slowly the doors are closing when she goes to reseal it, and it's like you're just hearing it. Just was dragging on and on.
Yeah,
the yelping.
Yeah. So the baddies roll out as the doors to the pit close forever. Elsewhere, our boy Kalidor still riding around the plains. He stops when he sees Varna running along the edge of a cliff being chased by bad guys.
Right, he's still stuck on the wrong side of the gorge or whatever.
How the hell do I get around this? So he takes off in pursuit of what he's seen across the way. We see Varna run up to a zip line
Sure.
that the temple guard, I guess, had in case of emergencies.
There was like a nice touch. I'm sure it was just a little miniature or something they set up, but like you could see the tip of the temple in the background, like over on the top of the trees. Yeah, that's a nice little touch.
The attention to detail for the setting shots, like the establishing shots and stuff, is pretty awesome. So she slides off the edge of the cliff and over a ravine, but as she's sliding, the bad guys fire off some crossbows and nail her in the back. Mm-hmm. Somehow she manages to hang on to the zip line.
Every ounce of strength.
Yeah. When she finally arrives at the other side of the ravine, Kalidor is conveniently there to catch her. He picks her up and sets her down next to a tree, yanks the arrow out of her back, because at first I was like, he's just going to like lay her down with that arrow sticking out, but I'm glad that they made him pull it out first.
The arrowhead was massive.
Giant. And I think the look on his face lets us know it's like, that was not good. So as he tosses the arrow away, bad guys start to arrive, and he takes like all 7 of these dudes out like handily.
Last dude, he just like lops his head off and went flying up in the air like humorously.
Like a backhand single arm sword swing that takes a dude's head off.
Which awesome. I ask, how did those guys get there? Did they all ride the zip line?
Yeah, they took turns. No one knows. Was this hours later?
I don't know, but they were just there.
Or were there
he set her down right at the tree that the zip line was tied to, and they came like running out from the bushes or something.
Yeah, I don't know if like some other guys knew a quick way to ride around the ravine or what. We don't. Yeah, there are lots of inconsistencies.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, we'll get to more.
That's why the director Fleischer said, "Don't worry about it."
So Kalidor turns his attention back to Varna, who tells him that the talisman's been stolen, but that it must be retrieved and destroyed. Mm-hmm. She tells him that he's got to take her to find her sister. Thankfully, she knows right where she's at. Kalidor can only nod in agreement.
Motherfucker hasn't spoken a word yet.
Not a word one.
I feel like we're 15 minutes in, and I just feel like I'll say on this particular day they didn't have sound equipment. That's what I'm saying. Like, I promise you that's what it was, and they just dubbed in the little bit of talking later.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It takes so much more time and money to record sound.
Oh, yeah.
They're probably just nod, giving it an intense Arnold nod.
Who is Varna's sister? What's going to happen next? Who is this mysterious Kalidor?
Yes, the trap has been laid. The scene has been set.
You're all going to have to tune in next time because we need more bourbon in our glasses.
Yes.
So we'll be back.